Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and by RockAuto.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb, and welcome everybody to MotorWeek podcast number 144. Hey, 12 times 12. That's cool. That's a big number.
Well,
I'm John Davis, and with me today around our table in Studio C at MotorWeek headquarters is writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Hello, John. I'll try to get all of my words out correctly this time.
Took a breather.
Thank you very much, Brian. Our writer, Patrick Lucas. Sorry, Patrick.
Greg Patrick.
Patrick Lucas. Who is also the producer of this podcast.
Oh, boy. Now John's having problems.
Way around the table.
And our assistant producer, who you just heard from, Greg Carlos.
That is me, who you just heard from.
All right. I'll try and keep my words to a minimum. We have a lightning round, a viewer question. We have a rant and rave section if we have something that's bothering us. But first, some of the vehicles we have been testing recently here at MotorWeek. We've got a lot of SUVs on this program. Infiniti QX80. It's about as big as they get. This is a rebadging of a vehicle that was already out that's now based on the Nissan Patrol, which is a very well-regarded truck-type full-frame vehicle. So when you gussy it up and you call it an Infiniti, is it successful or not? What do you think?
I think it's been pretty successful for them. We were over at the dealership the other day picking one up, and the sales manager there was very happy with the sales, and he said pretty much everyone is purchased by a female.
Is that right?
I'm not sure
what
he's
one of the
about.
biggest vehicles out there.
Yeah.
Just from observation, I feel like I only see women
He
driving
said he
them.
literally couldn't remember the last time he sold one where the male was the primary driver.
So what do you think that is?
they're
Because
huge.
it's just big and they
Safe.
feel safe and they ride high. And it is an impressive vehicle. It does feel incredibly substantial. The Infiniti used to be the QX56, which was then based on the Nissan Titan frame. When they brought out this gen, it moved to the Patrol frame, which is almost like a Land Cruiser-ish, ultra off-road capable, beefy SUV, and I think they've done pretty well with it. That was a good call because it also rides a lot nicer than it did before, and a lot of luxury in there as well.
Can we talk about styling?
Yeah, there will be a Nissan Armada version too. You mean the fact that it's
nothing's out of bounds?
that
here,
it's
Patrick,
absolutely ugly?
Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say that it's ugly.
Well, all right.
This side of the table
we choose
thinks
to
it's ugly.
disagree. I think it's ugly.
It is.
Wow.
I think
It's
it's
not
so
pretty.
bizarre looking.
I mean, between that squared off back and the rounded
Super
front
rounded,
end with the Infiniti grille, I just look at it and think it's ugly.
And then the one we had, granted, we always get top of the line.
That was limited full.
Yeah, like I had that thing for the weekend, and everyone's looking at things like this thing's $98,000, and you just look at it and you're like, would I be happy if I plunked down $98,000 on that thing? And I had to stare at that thing every day. I would lose my mind.
Well, but on the other hand, it's an incredibly useful vehicle.
It was very nice.
It's
It was
extremely
very
luxurious
nice.
on the inside. So, and after all, people aren't standing outside looking at it. And back to your point, Brian, that a lot of women are buying it to haul their families around.
We had a Land Cruiser in right around the same time. What is the price difference? Because I can't remember. Is a Land Cruiser more expensive than a QX?
They're very similar base price.
They
I
have a
think
Lexus version of it too.
Yeah,
right?
I think the Infiniti
Right.
gets higher on the high end, but I think base pricing is very similar.
Okay.
As you pointed out in the road test that you wrote, Brian, there are the people that need these vehicles. There is no substitute. A 3-row crossover isn't going to do it. It doesn't tow as much. It doesn't have as much room inside for people anyway.
Yeah, it does tow 8,500 pounds, so that's right there with Tahoe and stuff. And the newer Tahoe and Escalade are nice, but they're also, I don't know, they don't have the same substantial feel to them that like the Land Cruiser and the QX have. I don't think.
Which we also noted, like powertrain-wise, the Infiniti QX80 was maybe not as sophisticated.
That's an old
feeling.
engine. That's going back a ways. So it's definitely not the new tech there.
Clearly, if you need a full-size SUV besides the GM Trio and besides the Ford Expedition, and they've done a nice job of redoing the Expedition without actually having to be all new, this and the new Armada are real players.
Yeah, I think the Armada will play very well. We'll have to see when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be very similar and probably only a little bit less in price. Speaking of crossover/SUVs and real SUVs, Range Rover. After 30 years of offering a diesel engine everywhere else in the world, they finally have brought it here in the Range Rover and Range Rover Sport. It's an old engine that actually has been made new again. It dates back to the days when Ford was co-developing a V6 diesel with a Peugeot Citroën. Thoroughly brought up to date. It's got urea injection. Was it a good move? Does anybody really care that these prestige vehicles have V6 diesel engines?
Amazing engine, probably not the best timing. Although I will say, according to the local dealer, they're selling really well. So,
well, fuel economy, my gosh, it's 20. We got our test. We got 26 miles per gallon. That is the best of any Land Rover, Range Rover product we've ever done, including the Evoque.
And diesel pricing is kind of on the down right now, so it's maybe good timing after all.
Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense on their part. Maybe the masses in the States don't quite know it yet, but it really is. It's a strong engine. I mean, it's still every bit a Land Rover or Range Rover.
Land Rover, Range
Rover.
You were right
Rover,
both times, yeah.
That's
always
nice.
right.
Just act like you're right
Right.
all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm curious to see like what the salesmen are doing inside the showroom to try and push people that way. Are they trying to push people that way?
Do you really need
or
much
what?
cajoling to like? If somebody wants a Range Rover.
No, I mean
they're gonna get a
towards the
Range Rover.
diesel.
Oh, I see.
Well, yeah, they priced it smart. It's a little more expensive
$2,000
than
more.
the V6, but it's a whole lot cheaper than the V8.
$15,000 cheaper than the V8.
Is it? And then what? So you sell it based on that? Or you sell it on fuel economy? How do you sell it?
You definitely would sell it on fuel economy because like we got great fuel economy out of it.
I mean, and generally, I can't. That's been a short coming of every fuller size Range Rover and Land Rover we've done in the past is fuel economy.
And it's still, tow's the same as the V8. Doesn't get any extra capacity there, but 7,700 pounds.
That's still a pretty good number.
Yeah, that's more than adequate.
So that plus all the luxury. If I was in the market for a Range Rover, I'd certainly go that direction.
One of the quietest, smoothest diesels we've driven here, for sure.
I mean, even opening the hood, you could barely hear any clatter.
That one we had in for stand-ups, I think, was a diesel, right? I couldn't even tell.
Yeah. So good job.
Good job.
Something old, new again,
Well done.
and
Good job,
maybe
Range
right
Rover.
price.
Carry on.
Carry on. Okay,
Brexit.
a couple of the vehicles that we haven't done full road tests yet at, but we have been exposed to, and you will find them on our websites with quick spins and first drives. Fiat 124 Spider, the Fiat/Mazda
there you go.
made
Fiat.
two-seat sports car. Greg, what's different about it from the Miata,
Tell us about
and
it.
why do we care?
Well, there's a lot of similarities. We'll start with the similarities. The interior, actually, it's all built on the same chassis.
It's built by Mazda.
Right. Wheelbase built in Japan. Wheelbase is the same. The interior is almost exactly the same, minus Fiat badges where Mazda badges
No
would
Italian
be.
leather?
There's different color choices. Our Miata has the body colored panels on the doors. Those are replaced with some soft touch materials. A little bit different gauge details. And then the body is obviously new. It's 5 inches longer, much longer, elongated hood, kind of like a classic Italian.
Like a classic Fiat 124.
Exactly. And then the engines are different. This uses a 1.4 liter multi-air turbo, which we've seen in a ton of other Fiats. More horsepower. It's up to 160. More torque, a lot more torque actually. But the problem is I didn't notice it a ton. I did notice a slight bump in torque there, but the Fiat weighs 100 pounds more than the Miata. So in such a lightweight car, you feel that extra 100 pounds, definitely. And then obviously with the turbo, it's not as free revving, and it redlines a little bit lower. But I don't want to sound like I'm talking bad about it, because I liked it a lot. I think if you're into that flair of a Fiat, you'll definitely be happy, because it drives almost exactly the same as a Miata, maybe a little more civilized. I did drive our Miata right after I got home from the event, and the Miata felt like it was a tad more frantic, just a little bit more stiff.
So which one would you buy?
I'd stick with the Miata, just because I think I trust the Mazda engine a little bit more than the
multi-air Voodoo.
Yeah, so that would be my choice. Not to say that if somebody chose a Fiat over the Miata, I couldn't complain with them. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, the one thing that they're going to experience and here's I'm old again. I of course knew the original Fiat 124 quite well. I had several friends that owned them, and while they were really cool to drive and they drove well, they were always busted for one reason or another. Busted. That's not going to probably be the situation now with either of these cars. So bringing back, I think it's a good time to bring this car back.
Yeah, for sure. It's
50th anniversary of it.
They also offer an Abarth model. A little bit more horsepower, like 2 extra horsepower, maybe 4 extra horsepower.
I thought it was going to be awesome. I thought
you would think that was going to be
I thought it was
going
to be some like 200 horsepower, like
baby steps,
quad
baby
exhaust.
steps.
Like,
No, I think
but you don't need it. I swear you don't
but
need
that
it in
name
that car.
conjures up,
do you need a 700 horsepower Hellcat?
No, but I drove around an autocross course for by myself for an hour and I had a blast. I mean, it was awesome, and it was in an Abarth. So, and then another difference is, the manual transmission is different. They use the previous gen Miata manual shifter,
which was still a good shifter.
Because they say that the current gen Miata shifter couldn't handle the extra torque of the engine. So that's another little tidbit.
One of the most interesting things about that partnership is that Mazda came out just recently and said that if they had not done the deal with Fiat, there might not have been a redesign of the Miata. That the volume is low compared to lots of other vehicles. It costs billions of dollars to do a new one. So that partnership saved the MX-5. It might have still soldiered on with the old design, but they wouldn't have just done a new one. So
we
I think it's good.
That.
Styling. Can I just real quick?
Sure.
What do you prefer, new Miata or new 124?
Looking at them side by side, when I first saw the 124 at the auto show, I instantly recognized it as a Miata. I mean, I knew, but I thought proportions were very similar. But I like the old 60s style 124 styling and a little Ferrari. That it was basically a kind of a knockoff, even in its day, of what Ferrari was doing, and I thought that's pretty handsome. So I guess I prefer the Fiat styling.
I just wanted the John Davis.
Well, how about you?
Opinion. I like the Miata.
I haven't seen the 124 in person, but I don't think I would want to buy a Fiat that looks like a Mazda.
I wouldn't say it looks like a Mazda.
It doesn't really look like a Mazda. It has some of the same
if you really
proportions,
look at it,
then every other 2C sport car does too. Anyway, I'm glad they did it. But styling is, as Brian is always pointing out, is a personal thing.
I do always point that out.
It's a personal.
It is a personal.
Subjective.
It says that a lot.
Speaking of personal things, Mercedes-Benz C-Class Coupe.
Yeah.
Greg, it's yours again. You went to the preview.
Nervous about
Tell
where
us
that
about
was
it.
going.
He travels a lot.
Yeah. Well, what would you like to know about it?
Okay.
Because now I'm actually trying
Is it
to
really
everything?
How much different is it than the four-door? Was it worth waiting 2 years for? Is it, now that you've got the it's no longer entry-level vehicles, and the C-Class is, are they in the right direction?
I think they need to do a coupe version because there's definitely people who want that. I think it looks good. Again, it's a personal thing. I think it looks good. I know you said you didn't particularly like it that much, but
I seem to be in the minority when it comes to styling anyway.
Yeah, they, it starts at $43,000. It's like pretty much everything on the inside is, for the most part, C-Class, which we all loved. I think the C-Class is a very nice car. I think it might get to 60 just a little bit quicker than the 4-door. But yeah, overall, I mean, you can get airmatic suspension just like you can in the 4-door.
You can get 4MATIC.
And 4MATIC's available, rear-wheel drive or 4MATIC, whatever you choose. So there's definitely something for everybody if you're into or if you're looking in that segment. And I wouldn't say it's the greatest vehicle in that segment. It just does everything just fine.
What would you say is the greatest vehicle in that segment?
You gonna say?
Since you
I think.
are-
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a big Audi like A5
No, that's
S5
him.
fan.
That's I'm the
You
other.
can't be the
But
other guy.
even the 4 Series is pretty nice.
I as far as what it looks like when I first saw it at the auto show, and you can't always judge a car's styling when it's sitting on the floor of a convention center surrounded by other cars from the same brand.
Sure you can.
Well, you could. Sure you can.
That's our job to
We
do that.
do. That's our job.
Yeah.
But when I saw the pictures of it, which were shot from a high angle, and then I saw one on the street, I liked it better. So, I think it looks substantially sportier than the 4-door.
Yeah, they up the aggression on some of the intakes in the front, and just everything about it is just a little bit more aggressive.
Anything else?
What'd you think of the Turbo 4 engine? I drove it in the E-Class, the new E-Class, and I thought it was even good in the E-Class. I thought it felt
Yeah,
decent.
I mean, it has plenty of power. I think the good thing about that is over that twin turbo V6, which I think is now the 400 versions.
That's the 4, yeah.
It feels lighter. There's a lightness to it, and you don't have to work real hard to get the power. So it's not gonna kill you with power, but it's certainly
readily
plenty. Yeah, and it's
available.
easy. It's very easy to drive.
Okay, with that, let's move on to our lightning round. We have 2 minutes to debate a trending automotive topic. Well, once again, we have apparently reached the end of the line with the Dodge Viper. Dodge, then SRT, back to Dodge. I think it's proper to call it an icon, even though it wasn't around that long. I'm not so sure this is the end of the Viper. This is the end of the Viper as we know it.
marketing.
Is it one of those things, though, that do we really need cars like that around? I mean, it's heresy to even discuss that. What do you think?
Well, no one needs one, but I'm glad that they make them, and I'm glad that I get to drive them, and I'm glad other people like to purchase them. I'm not so sure the Viper is going to, totally disappear either. Either they're going to come out with a newer version, or knowing Chrysler, they'll put a Viper trim package on a Neon or something.
Well, the rumors are rampant
Neon.
that it's going to be based on an Alpha
Dating
chassis
yourself,
that
man.
they'll
They'll
be
bring it
running
back.
on.
Didn't it
just to
go
do that.
away before
Yeah.
this version came out?
Yes. Yeah.
So
There was a year
what's to
missing
make us
there.
believe anything different?
Well, as I said, the rumors have been rampant for years that they're going to basically do a new one based on perhaps an Alpha chassis or something. So that we don't
My
have
thought
here.
process was that they had such success with like the Hellcats that they don't. The Viper kind of has been surpassed by these really cheap Hellcats that have ridiculous power, and
So now you got to do something more ridiculous.
Correct. It
I
would
mean,
have
that's
to
what
be
a Halo
something
car
special,
is.
yeah.
They need a Halo car. There's no question.
I think the
about it.
Hellcats could be their Halo
Yeah,
cars.
that's
Everyone
true,
they
pretty
have
much.
they have a great
Oh, yeah.
reputation. Everyone loves them. Anytime you see a Challenger or a Charger, everyone wants to know if it's the Hellcat.
But are they going to try and capture like the track goer? I mean, the Viper is a track.
Are there
can
even that
certainly
many
be
people
a track car.
track goers
I think
anymore?
there's enough that you could.
Oh, yeah.
John said it. He was. I think you mentioned that it may or may not be an icon. I definitely think it's an
I
icon.
think
I
it
grew up with that's the poster. That's the poster car, right?
Yeah.
A Viper, and I think, if they completely get rid of it, it's probably a mistake. For something that's meant so much to people of Patrick and my generation,
That's
that
a
is
very
the
good
car.
point. My generation was more Corvette. Your generation is more Viper when it comes to domestic
It's also,
cars.
like their main international race car, in all the sports car series. So I'm not sure they almost needed some kind of replacement.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking that it's going to go away for a while. I mean, too long, and they might give it a year or so while they figure out what they're going to do.
Well, yeah, you said take that engine and put it in something else crazy as like a Viper trim package or something. Do you think they'll use that engine for anything else?
Well, I think it'll have an all-new engine. It'll probably be a Turbo 8 or something.
I'm just saying, I'm
Yeah.
sure they're still manufacturing this current engine. You think they'll put that in something else?
I sort of doubt it. It's awfully heavy,
What could
and
you put it in?
everything's
truck.
trending towards fewer cylinders with
Yeah.
turbos. And although
They did
if
have a
they
Ram
do
SRT
that,
with that engine for a while.
the problem
not
is
new.
if they take that mystique of that V10 away, that's a large part of the character of the car.
Well, Ford's proven that it doesn't matter with the GT. It's got a Turbo 6 in it.
Yeah.
So.
Just
All
one
right,
of them off.
hit the
I kinda
bell.
zoned out there.
I think
Sorry.
we zoned out. Let's talk about a viewer question. Daniel writes, I own a Honda Accord, a 2013 model. It's LX trim. It still has the original battery. Yesterday, my car left me stranded. The car is out of warranty with 40K miles. I don't think the battery be covered much anyway. How can I test the battery and make sure it's the battery that needs replacement? Well,
This guy can tell you right here.
Pat
Bad
Goss
Goss.
would tell you that there's nothing you
Now
can do
listen.
yourself to find out if the battery is in really good shape.
Really?
That you need
just use a multimeter.
you can use a multimeter, but in order to see what the conditions the cells are, he would normally say that you've got to put it under load and have somebody do it professionally. However, you can use a multimeter. Why don't you take it away on that?
No, just make sure it's putting out like 14 volts or whatever.
Well, when it's running.
When it's running.
And but any of those battery warehouse places or Advanced Auto, all those, they'll test them for free. And obviously, they do want to sell you one. So,
But if
Honestly-
the battery, again, echoing Pat's words, most places test batteries without putting them under a full load. And he says that's not adequate.
you're going to need one eventually anyway.
I was going to say, it's a
Don't do
2013. You got what, at most, maybe even 4 years if you bought it in 2012. I mean, batteries don't last forever. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
I generally replace a battery, and I don't know what Pat recommends here, but you can check our website for that. But I replace my batteries about every 4 to 5 years before they start, grinding down. The big question for you, Daniel, is whether or not the battery's getting charged properly, whether or not there's something else going wrong here. And for that,
I'd say
you
it's
probably
more-
do need a technician.
But at 2013, it's more likely that the battery's dead
Yeah.
than the alternator's bad.
And even
Yeah.
if it is the alternator, you're going to want to start it off with a new battery anyway. So the battery's going to end up getting replaced regardless. So might as well start with that.
And generally, alternators, if they die, they die. Yeah. So
They gone.
I guess our advice, Daniel, is go ahead and get it tested. I think you ought
Get
to
yourself
have it tested under load, but basically let a professional look at it, and maybe just instead of going to all that trouble for less than $100, you can put in a brand new battery anyway and get on with it and not worry about it. Because if it's not giving you real problems now, it will soon. Rant and rave. Anything sticking under anybody's craw at this
Yeah, he
point?
said skin
Yeah.
last time.
I've got rave material. I think.
I would hope so because that's the segment.
Yeah, I think.
Go with it.
So I'll start by saying that Maryland probably has, in the surrounding states, it's probably some of the best surfaced roads. I think Pennsylvania is notoriously bad for having roads. You think they're better in Pennsylvania?
No, but I wouldn't say the Mid-Atlantic has the best road services anyway.
No,
Well,
I'm saying in our area,
in our area.
we probably have some of the best surfaced roads. But the problem is
I
this
think I
summer,
agree.
and I think last summer, they have gotten on some kind of schedule where every single road I drive on, it seems like, is being paved.
Getting another
And
4
they're
inches
not-
of asphalt
and
on
they're
it.
not doing it at a quick pace.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds like I'm complaining, and I am complaining, but
They're
like it's
making America
summertime.
great
I want to
again.
get out and take
Yeah.
the Miata and drive
Yeah.
around, but I can't because there's always a flagman right there waiting for me, or the road's grooved or something. It's just, I want to drive.
Not to beat on Pennsylvania, but I do a lot of interstate driving, and invariably it is the interstates leading up through Pennsylvania where there's always massive traffic jams because they're always tearing up major sections of the road and doing it again. And you do wonder, it's like, this is the time everybody's off on vacation. Okay, you can't do this in the winter. I get it. But why does everything have to be done at the same time?
It does. It seems like their scheduling
agree
is
with you.
off. It's just like, couldn't you do maybe one section of road or like one area 1 year? I don't know. Maybe we're just getting hit with it right now, and the rest of the state's fine.
I suppose the Great Recession had a lot to do with it. They probably cut back on a lot of that work, and now they're trying to make up for it.
True.
And there's government funds. But it does seem like that. Like I was out with the Miata the other day, and I put the top down and sunscreen on, and let's go have a good time. And I think all I did was sit in traffic waiting for a flagman to lift it.
And to add on that, there's just way too many people on the road, way too many drivers. We need a way to get some of them off the road.
Yeah. revoke some licenses or something.
That seems to be the opinion all over the world. That it?
Yeah, and rant.
And rant. All right. That was pretty mild. Pretty mild, guys.
Yeah,
You gotta do
I
better
could
than
have
that.
really went in on him, but I didn't.
Not this time, though. We're going to wrap up this 144th edition of our MotorWeek podcast. I want to thank everybody sitting around the table that contributed today. Our writer-producer, Brian Robinson. Pause in case he says something.
It was a real
Insert,
It was
you're
a real
welcome.
pleasure to be here.
There you go.
Yeah, don't lie. Writer Patrick Lucas.
Hey,
Hey.
it really was a pleasure to be
Hey,
here.
good. I'm glad you're here, all of you. Assistant producer Greg Carlos.
Nothing.
Audio engineer Jim Bigwood, who's always makes sure that we sound the best we possibly can. Our podcast creator Bob Mixter, and of course our podcast producer Patrick Lucas, the guy with the bell. I insist upon that. All right. If you haven't seen Motor Week, shame on you. We can be seen weekly on public television stations around the country. Time and stations are on our website, motorweek.org or .com. We're also on Velocity. That's the Discovery Channel that features cars, planes, trucks, anything that moves. Please catch us there every week. Our YouTube site has got everything you could possibly want on it that you might have missed.
Check out the YouTubes.
Basically, if you want to know about cars and you want to hear what MotorWeek has to say, it's pretty easy to do. But we thank you very much for being a part of our podcast. And Patrick, is this one also going to be a video cast?
It will be.
It's a video cast as well.
It'll be a video cast.
I'm John Davis. Thanks for being a part of all of our experiences here at MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and by RockAuto.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at MotorWeek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.